Hey everybody, Justin Howe here. I want to thank you for being with me today. I just wanted to do a little talk today on three brutal facts that you may not be aware of when it comes time to sell your house. But again, while they are not necessarily the most pleasant things in the world, they're definitely something to be aware of. And if you are aware of them and you come to terms with them on the front end of the sale, it's going to make things a lot more pleasant for you. So the first one, and this is kind of a big one that hits everybody, is the reality that your home is probably not worth what you really think it's worth in your mind. Now, again, I say that from the standpoint of this may be your house, this is your home, this is where you've been, this is where you've raised your kids, all of that good stuff. And in your mind, when you look around the neighborhood, it's very easy to take yours and put it on a pedestal compared to others and say, well, they have this, but I have this, or we definitely keep our yard looking a lot nicer, or we did some work on the inside and I've been over to Joe Schmo's house down the street and I know what the inside of their house looks like, so I can tell you, not saying it out loud, but we should probably be charging more for our house than they should. Now, that's what we feel, but the reality is always a little bit different. Your house is going to sell for what the market will bear at the time that you're putting it up for sale. Period. End of story. Hate to tell you. You may think you have a $500,000 home. If the market is only going to support buying that house at $390,000 to $400,000, that's the price that your home is worth. Hate to break it to you. That's how it works. So the reality is, yeah, can you list your house for $500,000 if you want to? Sure. Are you going to have a hard time getting it sold? Unfortunately, that's probably the reality. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about selling your house. You need to open that mind up. You need to kind of let go of preconceived notions of what you think your house is worth and get an idea of what your house is really worth. So one thing to be wary of there is you can go online, you can type in your address, and websites, you can get a Zestimate or any number one of these websites. They're going to kind of throw out a number of, hey, this is what your house is worth. Not the best way to go about it. Again, they're going to give a number. While it may be closer to the ballpark, is it going to be exact? They don't have the data to really get into the nitty gritty and do that. So don't rely on a quick online estimate for the price of your house, because you're going to be, again, going into it with some preconceived notions that may not be exactly correct. So how do you get an exact price? The reality is you probably need to find yourself a good realtor. Now, a good realtor is going to do a good comprehensive analysis of your house, not just picking out 3 or 4 properties nearby with similar attributes, but really getting into the nitty gritty of the houses, matching up upgrades, remodels, things like that, getting down to the square footage so that they can bring you a true and correct price to what the market's going to bear. And that's really the only way you're going to get yourself into the correct ballpark, because remember, pricing your house correctly is super important for the sale itself. If you're priced too high, you're not going to get the looks, because people are going to know right away it's overpriced. Why do we even need to bother looking for it? Or they're going to come in and lowball the hell out of you because they know what the true market's going to bear. And when you get that lowball price, it's going to sting a little bit, because you're going off of what you think is correct versus what the market's going to bear. So number one, obviously, is your home is probably not what you really think it's worth. So number one there. Number two is the cold brutal truth is you're probably going to have to spend some money to get your home sold. Now, this can be a little bit of money. This can be maybe a little bit more money. It just depends on the condition of the house. When's the last time you've done some remodeling? When's the last time you put a coat of paint on the house? When's the last time you painted the inside of the house? These are all things you got to kind of look at, because again, buyers are coming in, they're wanting to look at the house, imagining what it's going to look like when they live in it, not while you're living in it. You've been there for 20 years, you're very comfortable with the way it looks because that's what you've known. So if it's a little dingy on the outside, you know what? We've lived with that for 5 to 10 years. If the bathrooms haven't seen a remodel since 2004, it's not the perfect thing for us, but we're happy with it. That doesn't fly with a buyer. They're going to want to come in. They're going to want to see something that looks like a house that they can live in. And if they come and they see a dingy coat of paint on the outside, or they see a bathroom that's going to take, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 to get remodeled, the first thing they're doing is they're subtracting that from the offer price, because they know once they get into the house, they're going to have to spend that cost. And a lot of people, they don't necessarily like that. I'm a DIY guy. I'm a home improvement guy. I love those kinds of projects. I love getting in and making it my own. I'm also used to dealing with construction and things being disrupted and having a house that's a little unfinished for a while. Not everybody wants that. So you're going to have to budget a little bit of money on the front end to do some things to get that house fixed up and ready to sell. Maybe it's a little bit of extra landscaping out in the front of the house. Maybe it's spending the money to get a fresh coat of paint on the outside so that it looks a lot newer than what it really is. But don't go into the process of selling a home without the understanding that there's going to be a little bit of money that needs to be spent on the front end. If you don't go in with your mindset there, it's not going to be as much fun. You're going to grit your teeth. You're going to hate having to write that check every time because, in your mind, it's like, I'm trying to sell this thing. Why am I going to put more money into it if I'm trying to sell it? Yeah, you know what? Perfectly logical frame of mind. But if you want to get it sold, you're going to have to spend a little bit of money to get it done. And I promise you, making those upgrades, freshening things up a little bit, it's going to pay dividends in getting buyers attracted to the house, getting offers on the house. And the reality is, a lot of those improvements, you're going to get that cost baked back into the sale price of the house. So if you do it right, if you're making the right upgrades and doing the right freshening up, it's kind of a zero-sum game. You got to write the check out of pocket on the front end, but when that house closes and the money is funded back into your account, basically you pay yourself back for the improvements that you had to make to get the house sold. So bear that in mind. If you're going to do it right, if you're going to be successful with it, chances are there's some money coming out of your pocket on the front end to get that house pretty so that the buyers are attracted to it and you get the offers that you want to get it sold. So that's number 2. Number 3 is selling a house is more than just finding a realtor, signing a listing agreement, putting a sign in the yard, and boom, waiting for things to happen. Selling a house takes stamina from the homeowner. And when I say stamina, I also say stamina and discipline. It's kind of how I look at it. Because as a home seller, you got to have that house looking sharp, ready to go, because you don't know when the next buyer is going to be coming in to take a look. So when I say stamina and discipline, I'm talking about you've got to have every day that house has got to be game ready. And that means picking all the clothes up off the floor. That means getting all the dishes out of the sink. That means all the breakfast stuff gets put away and that house is ready to show when you leave for the day, because you may have a buyer that wants to come and take a look at it that day on their lunch break or maybe early in the evening. So that's where the discipline comes into play, that making sure your house is game ready for showings every single day. Again, is it the end of the world if the house is a little bit of a mess? Nah. I mean, obviously, the buyer coming in, as soon as they move in there, they're going to be living life too. They're going to be leaving laundry on the floor. They're going to be leaving their shoes laying around. Their dishes aren't going to get washed after breakfast because they got to get out the door to work just like you do. That's very true. However, buyers want to come in and imagine themselves in that house as if it were spick and span, because the reality is we all want our houses spick and span. Do we get it? No, not often. But the idea of having it clean and the idea of having it sparkling gives that buyer the idea of what it would be like if they were living there and everything was perfect. So you got to have that discipline every single day. Get the house clean, get it ready. So when you go out the door, it's ready to show for the buyers coming in. And again, it may require going through and decluttering your house before you put it up for sale. I mean, you can see my collection back behind me. This is all stuff that I like. It's important. It has meaning to me. But again, it's not what the buyer necessarily wants to see. So having the stamina to go through the house and getting things cleaned out, getting it staged, getting it ready, making it the best looking house that it can be for any potential buyer coming in is going to be an extremely helpful thing for the sale of the house. But it does require you as a homeowner to be daily watching that, daily maintaining that, having it ready so that it is in tip-top shape and be the best representation of the house that it can be when the buyers are coming in the door. So again, the three things that we're looking at, again, the top one, your home isn't worth what you think it is. In our minds, we want to get more money for it than what we may really be able to get. So employ the help of a good realtor that can give you the right number so that it can be priced right, so that it will attract buyers and get you the offers that you want to get on the house. The second one, again, you're going to have to pony up a little cash on the front end to get this house ready. I've seen very few houses that you can just walk into and say, okay, well, let's move that over here and this over there, and everything else is ready to go. It doesn't happen very often. Usually it requires a little bit of work, a little bit of investment to get a house shining and pretty and ready to go when that for sale sign gets put in the yard. So budget a little bit on the front end, take a little bit of money aside, put it away so that it's going to be home improvement things to get the house ready to sell, so that when you go to spend it, you're not gritting your teeth every time. And know that if you do put in the effort, the time, and the money for it, you're probably going to get that back in the sale of the house at the end. So if you work it right, it's a zero-sum game. And then finally, stamina and discipline on the part of the homeowner. You want to get this house sold. It's going to take some effort on the homeowner's part to do it. And that means making sure that it's showing ready every day, keeping the floors cleaned, keeping the laundry off the floor, keeping the dishes out of the sink. Make it look like the ideal place for that buyer when they're coming in, because if they are focusing on your dirty laundry or your shoes on the floor or your dirty dishes in the sink, they're not focusing on the attributes of the house that make it a winner for them to want to buy. So hopefully those three brutal truths, while they are not fun to think about when you're selling a house, understanding them, accepting them, and accounting for them is going to make the selling process so much smoother for you emotionally, and again, just through the process itself, because you're pricing it right, you're spending the money you need to help get the house sold, and you're being a diligent homeowner to make sure that it is in tip-top shape every day for any buyer coming through. So thanks for taking the time to share this with me. If you've got any questions or comments about it, maybe there's some other brutal truths out there that some of you may have encountered and want to share. Hey, the more information we have, the better understanding of the home selling process that everybody has, the better off we all are going to be. So Thank you very much for your time. Again, if I can answer any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I will see you next time.